Hello, Will here with Will Folio at willfolio.com. And today I want to talk about some tips for coping with schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. If you're newly diagnosed, you probably notice that there's a lot of information out there about those diagnoses and basically telling you what it actually is, because a lot of people really don't understand schizophrenia unless they have it and unless they've had it for quite a while. It takes, you might be newly diagnosed as a child, or you might be diagnosed as an adolescent, but it takes time for all the symptoms to really surface. And so in the beginning it might be difficult to understand what it is, but there's lots of information out there about what schizoaffective disorder is, or what schizophrenia is. And what I want to talk about is some tips on how to cope with it and how to get through it so that you can recover and live a close to normal and happy life. So the first thing I want to talk about is communicating properly with your doctor. It's important to go to your doctor and tell him or her what is going on with you, and not to go in there with a diagnosis. Let the doctor be the doctor, let yourself be the patient, and don't diagnose yourself. That conversation might look a little bit different than what you might expect. There are certain things that are seen as symptoms when they're really diagnoses, like depression, mania, psychosis. Don't go to your doctor and tell him you're depressed or manic or psychotic. Those things are diagnoses, not symptoms. Instead, if you think you're depressed, just tell the doctor what that looks like for you. If you have sadness, if you have irritability, if you have loss of interest in things, those things could be various things and not necessarily depression. If you have an elevated mood, if you have racing thoughts, if you have thoughts of, I don't know, maybe you're afraid of people, or thoughts of people trying to get you, if you have delusions, if you have hallucinations, even if you don't think you're delusional, tell the doctor what's going on in your life. If you think the government is doing things with you, if you think there's satellites watching you or people watching you through your phone or through your computer, just tell the doctor what's going on in your life. And tell the doctor what your symptoms are. The next thing I want to talk about is, it really helps to cope if you find a place in the community to retreat to when your symptoms are getting the best of you. I, for one, like to go to a hotel when that happens, but sometimes I go to my favorite Denny's, or I'll go to an adoration chapel. It's better than going to the hospital, because the hospital is so sterile, and very little recovery actually happens in the hospital. And in order to get into the hospital, you have to at least act like you're a danger to yourself or others. And if you're not really a danger to yourself or others, that's really not good for your recovery. You really should only go to the hospital if you are a danger to yourself or others. But if your symptoms are getting the best of you, just make an appointment with your doctor and get in to see your doctor as soon as possible, because he's the one that knows you the best. The doctor in the hospital just sees you for a few minutes, for a few days while you're in the hospital, might tweak your meds a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to see your regular doctor anyway. So just bypass the hospital and get in to see your doctor, but in the meantime, find a place to retreat. like a church or your favorite restaurant or a hotel or maybe a park or a campsite or someplace like that. The next thing I want to talk about is get involved with something in the community. A huge part of my recovery was being involved in my church. I went to Mass every day. I was involved in ministries. I also did some community service. I volunteered at St. Vincent de Paul, and I was very involved in the community. And that was partly, well, I would say mostly, what contributed to my recovery and made me know that I was capable of a lot more than just sitting at home watching TV and smoking cigarettes all day collecting a disability check. Eventually I went back to work and got involved that way. And I struggle, but I'm doing it. So, I mean, everybody struggles in life. So, I feel that I've made a lot of progress, mostly because I'm involved in life and I have a life that I work to build for myself. And I think that you can too, if you just apply yourself. So that's number 3. Number 4, one thing that really helped me was to write down on paper the things that I was going through, the thoughts I was having, my symptoms. In 2003 I kept a journal for about 6 months and I filled up the whole notebook. I wrote in it almost every day. Nowadays I'm doing videos on YouTube and writing a blog. It's called Willfolio, and it really does help when I'm delusional or when I'm psychotic to write down my thoughts and then go back and read or watch the videos and rethink what I was thinking before and have that come back at me, and for me to be able to say, no, that's not the way it is. What I was thinking is not true. What really is true is this. A perfect example of that would be a blog post I wrote called Protestants Hurt Me, where I sort of bash Protestants and talk about how bad they are and how you shouldn't be Protestant if you're becoming a Christian. But later I made a video basically apologizing for that, and that just writing it down and going back and rethinking that really helped me, because that was something that was really bothering me and it was really challenging me. So the last thing I want to talk about is number 5, don't be afraid to get back on track. Recovery is all about getting back on track. If ever you're derailed, all you have to do is pick yourself up and get back on track. If you aren't seeing a doctor, just make an appointment and start seeing the doctor regularly. If you're not taking your meds, just start taking your meds again and get better. If you're not journaling, start journaling again. If you're not getting involved in the community, if you've been isolating, get back out into the community. So those are the 5 things I wrote in my blog post about how to cope with schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, and I hope you read the blog post for more information. I'll put a link to it in the player if you're watching this on YouTube. And this is Will with Willfolio at willfolio.com. Thanks for watching. God bless you.